Good afternoon. My name is John with the Pine Tree. I have the great pleasure of being here with Congressman Lundgren. I really appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. Now, I know you're making the rounds as far as election time. All this. Now, we asked a little bit: what's a little bit of something that you don't think has been mentioned enough? You know, as far as it's an important issue coming up for this election, or something that Congress has done lately. Now, tell us a little. You were talking about the Secure Rural Schools Act.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy, obviously, over the economic package that we passed. I was not in favor of what the Secretary of Treasury first gave us, which was sort of the almighty Paulson plan.
Right.
And I thought that was too much of a bailout. So what we did was, that was a bailout, and so what we did was really work hard to change it. And I was satisfied that I could vote for the final package, which was a rescue package. It was defeated the first time in the House, went over to the Senate, and then came back to the House with some add-ons. And a lot of people said, "Oh my God, look at all those bits of pork there."
Right.
Two things I would mention. The biggest bit of pork, if you will, were extenders of tax cuts that we really need. I'm talking about R&D tax credits, research and development, the tax credit that you get for alternative energy sources. I don't consider that pork, but the other big part of that, the biggest part of that, was something called AMT, alternative minimum tax. That was something the tax code passed about 30 years ago to try and capture taxes from multimillionaires who, using other things through the code, had come to a zero tax liability.
Right.
And even though what they did was legal, they ended up with nothing. So the thought was there'll be an alternative way of calculating their taxes. They'd have to pay it. The problem is, over the years, it doesn't just capture the multimillionaires. It captures a whole bunch of us in Middle America. And had we not acted to put a patch on it, to change it somewhat, 21 million additional American families would this year have to pay higher taxes through no fault of their own. So that was one part of it.
Okay.
Now, so I don't call that pork. I call that not increasing taxes on the American people. Maybe only in Washington could you have a situation where people say, "Hey, we don't increase your taxes. If we actually act not to increase your taxes, we're going to call that pork." The other thing that was called pork was the Secure Rural Schools program. Now, this is a program that gives to rural schools, and I'm talking about these counties that I represent up here in the foothills and mountains and others up and down the Sierras, that have a tremendous percentage of their land owned by the federal government, therefore taken off local tax rolls, and which have over the years restricted economic activity, particularly timber. That when that happens, these communities suffer because they don't have a revenue-based tax base to be able to support their schools and their fire and their police.
Right.
So we created a program a number of years ago which said, in lieu of the funds you would get from economic activity, we, the federal government, will help support your schools. The problem is, it has been a football that's thrown back and forth and back and forth. It is something that actually has caused trouble, so that you don't have the schools being able to plan ahead. And what would normally happen in a year is they wouldn't know how much they'd get. It'd be delayed. I mean, we're talking about voting it just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And yet school started before that. You had to plan before it. Some of the school districts in and around this area had laid teachers off, or didn't hire them, or had to restrict hours for school libraries. So the deal that was struck was that we would allow this program to be in existence for the next 5 years, and there would be a de-escalating scale of how much you get. What I mean by that, in 8 states, including California, you get 90% the first year, then I think it was 70, then 73, then 60, then down to 50. That gives at least certainty as to how much money you get. In the meantime, I think what we have to do in Congress is to work to ensure that when we look at alternative energy sources, that we're talking about forest fuels as well. That we're talking about cogeneration, and we're talking about conversion of that forest fuel to maybe liquid fuels. I'd like to have healthier forests. I'd like to have more economic activity in the counties I represent to help them resurrect their economies in substantial ways. I'd like to have a renewable resource that we can convert into energy. It's a win-win-win-win.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that and put a real emphasis on it over the next 5 years, so that as Congress tries to decide whether or not they're going to have a rural schools program or not, we try and get our counties away from depending on the federal government and saying, look, we can stand on our own. Let us do this economic activity. So that's a what would I call it? An untold story out of what we dealt with in the last week of the Congress.
Yeah, and you guys, you had some long days and some hard conversations on that stuff. Huh?
It was one of the oddest and hardest and most uncertain several weeks that I've been involved with in Congress. I don't think people at the beginning, and I'm talking about members of Congress as well as people in the administration and people in the banking community and people in small business and folks at the local level, either realized or want to admit the problem we were in, the difficulty.
Right.
So we had to first be honest with ourselves and admit that we had some tough economic circumstances facing. Secondly, we had to recognize it wasn't going to get taken care of overnight. Third, we had to say, maybe there's some things we normally wouldn't want to do, but we've got to do it to save the system.
You know, was the administration a little late in communicating the fact? Because I guess that what we saw is, for example, like when Governor Schwarzenegger put out the piece about California conceivably running out. Now, does that, and some of the stuff that came out later, but did that really underscore some of the urgency that the administration was putting on it? Because it seems like all of a sudden it was like, we need this done.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, well, I think part of it was several months ago, Senator Paulson, Secretary Paulson came to us. And we meet, all Republicans together and all Democrats together, and we meet together with both of us. And he met with us, and he was trying to tell us the seriousness of the situation with housing.
Right.
But he was fearful of actually using words that would cause panic. And I think he did a very poor job of explaining how serious it was. I was finally convinced of it when I spoke with other people who had small conversations with him about how important it was. And so I held my nose and voted for the housing bill 3 months ago. It had some things that I didn't like. But that wasn't sufficient. You saw what they did with Morgan Stanley. You saw where the government did have an intervening role. You saw that they let Lehman Brothers go. They didn't intervene there. Then they made a decision that they were going to do something with the large insurance carrier. And you and I and everybody else watching now owns a part of that, 80% interest in that organization. Hopefully we'll get out as soon as possible. That was ad hoc. Choose here, choose there. That's what Japan did about 20 years ago when they had a financial difficulty crisis. And it took them 10 years to get out. Sweden went to a system where they said it's a systemic problem, we're going to deal with it in a large-scale way, we're going to try and get it done here and now. They got out in about 2.5 years. Now look, Sweden's far more socialistic than we would ever think it'd be. They nationalized some industries. We don't have to go that far at all. But if you're going to do it ad hoc or systemically, it looks like systemically gets you out of it sooner, the pain is less. So that's when he came back to us and said, hey, this is big. And I don't represent Wall Street. So you had to convince me that it was important for folks at my level, folks in my district. And I look at it in some ways through the eyes of my mom. My mom's 91 years of age. She lives in an independent living assistance facility in Sacramento. My dad worked for himself, so there's no pension there. So all she has is her Social Security and then that nest egg my dad created for them. We sold her house with her and brought her up here to the Sacramento area. And that was put into, when that starts going down, you see that's a question of our future. And so that means it's real. That means it's real to people. When folks were telling me, automobile dealers, I had people qualified to take out a loan to buy a car, but the banks didn't have any money. That's when it hits home. And so I think people now understand how serious this is. Luckily, we've got the rest of the world working together with us, but it's tough. You know, you see the stock market go up almost 1,000 points one day. You see it go down 700 points another day. We're in for a bit of a wild ride, but we have to have absolute confidence in the goodness and the work ethic of the American people.
I mean,
we can work our way out of it. But we got to get back to responsibility, accountability, transparency, honesty, value rather than transaction-based economy, a real assessment of risk, a real assessment of value. Those things lay at the base of what makes us successful and great. And we've got to get back to those things.
I want to say thank you.
All right,
thank you for spending a few minutes.
Appreciate
and good luck on down the stretch.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.